evening, ladies and gentlemen, once again.
Good evening.
Well done, Vikas. I'm going to try and say a speech after you. It's not the easiest thing in the world to do. You gave another fabulous speech. The topic for my speech this evening is learning from the outside in. As Toastmasters and fellow aspiring masters of our own universes and destinies, I think we certainly all agree that Toastmasters is a phenomenal platform of which to learn and grow our public speaking skills as well as our leadership skills. Does anybody disagree with that?
No.
I'm glad, because if you did, I'd have to call on Garish to come and convince you otherwise, and my time would be blown for sure. Although Toastmasters does obviously provide us with a great process and formula which to learn, I've also started thinking that there is also so much out there, other sources of knowledge and inspiration from which to draw. And that fact has led me to believe that perhaps thinking and learning from the inside out only has possible pitfalls to go along with its advantages. So what I mean by learning from the inside out, I mean focusing only on your immediate microcosm around you, the space that you're comfortable within every day, be that in the family environment, reading certain types of books, Vikas in your case, certain genre of books, watching certain news channels, whatever it may be, they're in the space in which you are comfortable. And I just really picked up that there's so much out there if you just prod a little bit more and just take a step out of the box and out of your comfort space. And that in essence is the point of my 5 to 7 minutes here tonight, the fact that some of life's greatest lessons are actually out there to be learned from external sources, and that you actually need to step out of the box and go and get them. And that's what I mean by learning from the outside in. And to give you a simple illustrative example, consider the following scenario. You go down to the local pet store with a view to buying a family a new little puppy. Everyone's really excited and rushes down there and is keen to choose out the cutest little guy. But the biggest problem that you have, and everyone's a bit worried about it, you live in Emirates Hills, just up the road, and you've got a huge mansion, like we all do, and you've got a gigantic swimming pool in the mansion. And everyone's a little bit worried that the puppy's going to arrive there and be all excited and fall in the pool and drown. And I'm sure we've all had those concerns if you've ever had a dog. So anybody got any ideas about how we can avoid that? And so don't give me dirty looks. This is a good story, I promise. It's a good ending. Anybody got any ideas, Mustafa? How do you avoid the dog falling and drowning in the pool?
Teach the dog to swim.
Don't get a dog.
That's a good idea. That's the biggest thing. Tied up. That's an in the box answer, I would say. I think Vikas, yours was pretty close to what I would have thought, and my advice would be to throw the dog in the pool. I know Zanissa is going to be saying, like, what, you crazy, that's bizarre. but hear me out. I actually had that scenario, or faced that scenario at one point in my life, and I went to the local vet saying, Mr. Vet, how do I avoid this? And he said to me, throw the dog in the pool, let it flap about for a minute or two, and then sort of learn that the pool is dangerous, and then take him out again. It seems crazy, but the dog never went near the pool ever again. So, out of the box example, but it worked. I promise him, he's still alive today. And a more, I guess, practical and useful example that I'd like to share with you is one that I've learned through studying Mr. Steve Jobs, who is the co-founder and CEO of Apple, for anybody that doesn't know. And the lessons that I've learned from him are all about presenting and giving speeches. And you might think, well, sure, he's a great leader, and he certainly can tell us a lot about computers and iPods and perhaps computer programming. But what can he give us in terms of presentation skills? That's exactly my point. It's taking some learnings from a place that's not as obvious as it may seem. So I've got a few points of inspiration I've taken from Mr. Jobs. I'll break them down to 5 different points for you. And let's see, maybe there's some learnings in an uncommon place. And number one, the first thing he talks about is creating a memorable and impactful headline for the topic, the essence of the topic that you're talking about for the day. For example, when he introduced the MacBook Air, so many different MacBooks are this, I get confused. The MacBook Air, the line that he used was the world's thinnest notebook. And that line was used in all his communication, from his speech to his presentations on screen, his advertising, his PR, his website, blogs. That was a simple line. And what it did was create a clear sort of message and sense of purpose, and also just help build a bit of anticipation. I mean, everyone knew what it was, and it was kind of waiting to see what it would look like and what it would be like. So that's a key point to keep in consideration. Number two, and this is quite an interesting one for me, is add a villain. You think about that, all great tales in history have generally got a villain, whether it's Romeo and Juliet or Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs in the case of the Wicked Witch. A more relevant example to us would be a competitive organisation that you're competing against. Mr. Jobs' case, it was always IBM traditionally, and then more recently it's become Microsoft, who's now obviously in direct competition with Apple. And what out of the box sort of villain in our case could be something like overcoming the horrifics of mediocre public speaking. So there's a common purpose to which we're all sort of heading towards, or in a hospital ward it could be overcoming and battling cancer, for example. And just creating that sort of common enemy and then conquering it is a very powerful motivator, and then just gets the room engaged. Number 3, keep it simple. I'm very guilty of this in the marketing fraternity. I'm sure now the marketers would say the same thing, but we try and so hard these days to prove our point and show exactly how clever we are. There's 1,050,000 PowerPoint slides. Look how great we are. Like, buy from us. That same sort of a trap that we fall into. Mr. Jobs' case, he keeps his presentations just as simple as his products are. I'll give you a simple example, but the average PowerPoint slide in our sort of world contains about 40 words, give or take. And Mr. Jobs' whole presentations on average contain 7 words. So that's how simple he keeps it. My fourth point, you should remember it, engage the audience. To be able to stand up here and just talk to people is one thing, but the scientists and research has proven that the human mind gets bored very, very quickly. And Jobs counters that by engaging the audience at all points through be it live product demonstrations or asking the audience questions, or even just using interesting props, bringing products onto the stage, that sort of thing. And when he launched the iPhone in 2003, he took one out and he said, well, I'm going to show you how the Google Maps application works, and he proceeded to locate all the Starbucks stores in a given area. And he said to the audience, well, let's phone one, and he dialed up a cashier and he spoke to him and he said, I'd like to order 4,000 lattes to go, please, for the audience. Of course, he was just kidding, but everyone sort of erupted and just like sort of stayed engaged. And so, in terms of just keeping them engaged, and an audience that you engage is an audience that's listening. I think we forget about that sometimes. Last but not least, the light bulb moment. It's the emotionally charged moment that's like a sticky note to your brain saying, if you remember one thing from this presentation, remember this thing. And when Jobs launched this iPhone, the way he started out was, I've got 3 things I want to launch today. An iPod with a widescreen and touch controls, a great new mobile phone, and the 3rd thing was an internet browsing device. And the audience was like, yeah, cool, so what? And then he said to them, well, I don't think you're getting it. This isn't 3 devices. This is 1 device. And at that point, it was quite revolutionary, and obviously everyone was up in arms and cheering. And I think adding a bit of drama goes a long way to be able to keep people on the edge of their seats. So that's my contribution in terms of 5 points to helping us all improve our presentations. One last thing I'd like to add, just closing off, is this is a book, and Vickers, you're probably going to be really interested in this. It's called What Got You Here Won't Get You There. And it argues the same premise, the fact that the lessons that you've learned in your life to get you to this point are not the lessons that are going to take you over to this point. And those lessons need to be sought out in interesting and external places. So that's the crux of the book. If anyone's interested, please take a quiz and note down the author. I'd just like to leave you with a quote by Murphy Richards.